Welcome to Doing the Work, a Naples Integrated Recovery podcast. My name is Brian, and this space is for anyone who's tired of surviving the same emotional and behavioral loops, whether that's anxiety, trauma, addiction, or problems in your relationships. Around here, we cut the surface level advice and sugarcoating, no platitudes or bumper sticker wisdom. We focus on clarity, responsibility, emotional discipline, and the courage to look at yourself honestly so that you can stop repeating old patterns and start living with intention instead of reaction. Let's get into it. One of the most common things that people want from therapy is some sense of direction. They may not always say that directly, but it does show up pretty quickly with something like, "What's the right move here?" Or they may ask, "If you were me, what would you choose?" Or some even will just ask me, "Just tell me what to do." And that makes sense because when someone is overwhelmed, stuck, or scared, clarity can feel like relief. If the client and therapist have built some trust, then being told what to do can feel kind of grounding, like somebody else is holding the map while you can take a moment to catch your breath. This makes me think about when I was in active addiction. Before I got well, I was seeing a licensed clinical social worker in Naples, and at one point I remember asking her something similar, what to do, and she threw back to me, "What do you think you should do?" And I was pretty snappy and pretty nasty, and I was like, "You're the one making $150 an hour. Like, don't you have any answers, or do you know anything?" And she was pretty surprised, I think, that a client would talk so brash and so direct and so crappy to her. Poor woman. Thank you, Cicely, for everything you tried to do to help me when I was still sick. Then I fast forward to like my first year as a therapist. I still was learning a lot, and I was basing a lot of my therapy practice on my 12-step journey in recovery. So there was a lot of directive focused therapy where I was kind of sharing what I had done or things that I knew to be helpful. And with that, as much as I hate to admit that, that's a little bit too much of Brian in the session. Even if it is something that would probably be a direct parallel or something that would be really helpful for that client, that it's taking the focus off of them. Today, I don't practice that way, not because I'm unsure, not because I don't have a ton of life experience, and it's definitely not because I don't have opinions. Sometimes I have a hard time keeping those to myself. It's because growth doesn't happen for the client when they are outsourcing their authority. You don't become stronger by following my answers. You become stronger by learning how to hear your own. So my role shouldn't be to solve your life. It should be to sit with you while you learn how to think and feel clearly again, especially if emotions are loud and fear has been driving the wheel. Sometimes I offer tools. Sometimes I might name patterns that the client can't see yet. And sometimes it means sharing a story about myself that will normalize or illustrate something that they are already circling, as long as it's something that's going to be directly helpful to the client. And sometimes it means doing very little except just being present while they are wrestling a really hard decision that only they can make. But the moment that I become the one with all of the answers, something costly can happen. Their agency moves away from them and creates dependence on me, which is not the goal of therapy. And I guess some therapists try to keep their clients in therapy a long time. One woman proudly let me know that she had like a 90-something% retention rate. And honestly, I think my goal is get you out of therapy as fast as possible. Not because I don't want to work with people. I mean, I have abundance of clients and just abundance. And I don't want to keep anybody in therapy a second longer than they need to be in therapy. The goal is for you to get the tools, for you to be self-led. And if you need a tune-up, come back and find me. But me giving them solutions might feel comforting short-term, doesn't help them long-term. And I see this constantly in therapy, addiction work, relationships. People stay stuck not because they lack insight, but because they don't trust themselves. They're waiting for some sort of certainty or permission, or for someone to tell them that they are not wrong or that they are wrong. And the truth is that nobody can give that to you in a way that actually lasts. At some point, every person reaches this psychological crossroads. You've learned what you can from outside sources, and now the work turns inward. Stop asking who has the answer and start asking, what do I know, and where am I afraid to trust myself? That's where real change can happen. This isn't even just a therapy idea. This is human development. Early on, we need guidance, we need structure, models, but over time, maturity means internalizing those structures, not clinging to them. If you never make a shift, then you stay dependent on your teachers or the experts or your partner, systems, authority, and dependency always comes at a cost. There's a story that comes from the Buddhist tradition that before Buddha's awakening, he had studied under multiple teachers. He learned their systems, disciplines, their frameworks, and eventually one of them reached the same point with him and said, "I've taught you everything that I can." That is the moment that matters. Not doctrine or mythology or the image of a teacher, but the realization that no one else can take you further, which was when he discovered and then later taught, insight is not something that another person can install inside of you. Someone can walk with you for a stretch, but eventually the path becomes yours alone. And that idea translates directly into therapy. I can help you slow your nervous system down. I can help you see the patterns that you're repeating. I can help you recognize if fear or emotional wounds or old conditioning is running the show. But I can't live for you. And honestly, you wouldn't want me to. Because when you give someone else authority over your inner life, you also give them power, even if they didn't ask for it, even if they didn't want it. That's why I'm very careful. I don't want to be the voice that replaces your own. I want to help you strengthen the one that you already have. So it's not that I'm anti-guidance. I just don't want to confuse guidance with control. Think about how learning works in any real domain. When you're new, you need instruction, but over time, mastery means that you stop needing somebody else standing over your shoulder to make sure that you're doing it right. The goal should not be dependence, it should be competence. Mental health is no different. At some point, healing is not about learning more concepts, it's about learning how to tolerate uncertainty without abandoning yourself. It's about staying present if there's not a clear answer. It's about trusting that you can respond to life without somebody else always translating everything for you. Which is why when people are asking, what should I do? They're not really looking for instructions, often they're looking for confidence. And confidence does not come from being told the answer. It comes from realizing that you can survive choosing for yourself. So, a line from Buddhism is be a light to yourself. You don't need to take that spiritually for that to land. Psychologically, it's just saying, stop waiting for somebody else to guide you through your life. You can learn from anyone. You can read books. You can listen to Doing the Work podcast. You can sit in therapy with Brian Graneman, but none of that replaces the moment where you have this awakening of, I am responsible for my own choices and I live with the consequences. Friends, that is growth. That is adulthood. That's healthy recovery. And the mistake that people make is thinking that there's only like one right path or one right framework or one right answer or authority. There isn't. There's only the path that you are on, and whether you are walking it consciously and with intention, or if you're sleepwalking through it. Every phase that you have lived brought you to this exact moment that you're in. Even the ones that you wish that you could erase. Actually, especially those ones. Growth is not about shame and correcting the past. It's about integrating that into the present so that you make better decisions. When you stop framing your life as a series of wrong turns, something can start to loosen. You stop looking for rescue and start looking for clarity. That's what I want clients to find, not answers, but to find themselves. So I want to leave you with a few thoughts or questions. Not answers, questions. Oh, I leave therapy all the time with questions, and it's so frustrating that I don't ever leave with clarity, but I won't find clarity unless I have questions. So, answers don't change people, questions do. Where in your life, right now, are you still waiting for permission? Who have you made an authority in your life? Is that a partner? Is it your therapist? A boss? A diagnosis? And what is that costing you? What decision do you already know the answer to, but you keep pretending that you don't because choosing would mean taking responsibility and doing something hard? My guess is you definitely have one of those somewhere in your life. If no one could approve or disapprove of your next move, what would you be doing? What would change if you stopped asking, what's the right choice, and instead started asking, what can I live with and still respect myself? And finally, if you trusted yourself just 5% more than you do right now, what do you suppose might be different this time next year, end of 2026? Heavy questions, right? I love leaving therapy with questions. Well, I love it and I hate it. Sit with those. Do not rush to fix. Don't look for somebody else to interpret those or give you the answers. Because at some point, the work stops being about finding the right teacher or the right framework or the right path, and it becomes being willing to just sit and listen to yourself and to find those answers inside. Friends, that is doing the work. Thanks for spending the time with me. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with somebody who may need to hear it. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others around you. Remember that we're all doing the best that we can with the tools that we currently have, and we are all capable of growing past them. If you'd like to reach out or connect, send me an email, brian@naplesintegratedrecovery.com. I hope to hear from you there. And in the meantime, thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.